Welcome in to another episode 3 of the Bleav in Twins podcast on the Bleav Network. I am your host, Anders Pryor, currently joined by my co-host and analyst, the now very freshly clean-shaved Zac Tipton.
How
I
we doing?
matching me in my very sort of fresh appearance from last week. Literally fulfilled his promise a couple minutes before we hit record. So, um, but Zach, how's everything with you? I know that you and I were towards the end texting back and forth on what's not just for USA, but for any combination of countries, the best USA, the best Olympic basketball game that I can remember watching, men's or women's.
Yeah, it was a special game. Obviously, it would have been hilarious had the USA lost that game. But being down 17 to Serbia though is just not a good look in general. Like we should not have been in that situation in the first place with the team we have.
Right.
And so it's definitely disappointing. But
Yeah.
we won. We're headed to the gold medal match. And I am very excited to be there. I'm always excited when we have a good chance at a gold medal in the U.S.
I'm really it's kind of better that it like I would like to. My hope would be, obviously I'm going to root for the United States to get the gold, but if they were to lose, I would like to think that there is some sort of universally applicable narrative or discourse or implication that comes out of it. And, I think, Jokic is already kind of firmly at the apex of basketball at the moment. I don't really think it's hard to really sort of envision like how much he gains from a gold medal at this point in his career. Considering he'll probably have another shot at it in 2028. I would say that I think it is a much more kind of talk worthy and sort of fulfilling, if you want to use that word, kind of discussion if Victor Wembanyama kind of takes the gold from the United States. I think that's a much more sort of appropriate and also just fun storyline. And also France, I think, is collectively the better team than Serbia. So I think if you're going to see this team go down, I think France is the more appropriate opponent.
Yeah,
But
to see Nikola Jokic take down the U.S. would have been hilarious.
It would have been hilarious.
It would have been absolutely hilarious. If a team's that's best players were Nikola Jokic and Bogdan Bogdanovic took out a team led by LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and so on.
It would be funny if France were to win the gold. It would mean Frank Ntilikina wins a gold medal, which is a sentence I don't think that many people would have ever envisioned even thinking about. But I think Wembanyama getting a gold at 20 years of age is a very interesting kind of thought line and media cycle. There's more that you can kind of build on there than with Jokic and Serbia. But
absolutely,
France is the best defensive team in this bracket, and that they stepped up in the fourth quarter. But defensively, the United States just the spacing was flatly terrible, and I think it's going to be a really ugly, low scoring game, which favors France. But if the U.S. can kind of just have that overtake that they had, this game, then it should be a really good one.
Sticking with the Olympics, did you see the 1,500 meter men's final?
I'm going to be very frank with you. I probably did, and I don't know that I did. I have a lot of trouble keeping up with which running event is which when I watch them on the reruns or in the prime time. I can't even.
That is fair.
Yeah.
The 1,500 meter final that was Hawker.
Okay.
Cole Hawker. That was the best Olympic race I've ever watched. Like it was just everything about it was awesome. Because of how fast it was Cole Hawker, USA, wins gold. America never wins gold in distance events, first of all. At 1,500 meters, we never win gold. We're never really even medaling in those events. USA won gold with Cole Hawker. He came out of nowhere to pass the two best players in the world, two best runners in the world, and Jakob Ingebrigtsen and Josh Kerr, who were the two best in the world, and also two of the biggest smack talkers and rivals in the entire track and field space. They are like the faces of track, like Jakob Ingebrigtsen and Josh Kerr.
Right.
And they've been talking a lot of smack about who's the best. And then here comes Cole Hawker on the inside, passes them both, takes gold. Here comes Jared Naguse, another American on the outside, passes Ingebrigtsen, takes bronze, and Ingebrigtsen, who is the biggest villain in track and field, misses the medal podium. And everyone is giving him a lot of crap, which I think is fun. But it was still one of the best races I've ever watched. So that was fun. I know you didn't get to watch it, but if you have a chance, look up the 1,500 men's final and watch it. It is one of the best races. The entire feature of the race was on Josh Kerr versus Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and neither of them won. So it was awesome. So if you have a chance, go on YouTube, watch that race. It was fantastic. Anyway, so that's that. I've had a great time watching Olympics because it's meant I did not get to need to watch the two Twins losses these past 2 days, Anders, and so and that was very nice for me because I did not have to watch that.
No, we're gonna dive into it. We're gonna get we're probably gonna be talking about we're going to probably be opening a lot of these with the Olympics for as long as as many episodes as we make for when they're going on, but we will kind of, before getting into the Twins, just a couple of kind of news around the majors to kind of open this up, if you will. We last week we opened up with a very or earlier in the week, we opened up with a pretty emphatic discussion on the White Sox and how bad it's gotten. And somehow between the time that we made that episode and when we're talking right now, they won a game. They broke the streak. They tied, the record, and they didn't. I don't know if I should say thankfully didn't advance it, but they did not advance it. They beat the Oakland Athletics, which in 2024 on only this specific instance is a high bar to clear. But they broke their streak off, lost the next game, and now kind of the more kind of fresh part of this is that they've fired manager Pedro Grifol, who had, I don't have the number in front of me, but a sub 350 winning percentage.
Yeah, it's 319 winning percentage.
319 winning percentage.
89 and 190.
Yeah, that was there were a lot of points where really any point past, I'd say, June, this would have been a justifiable firing. We all kind of knew it was coming at any moment. I mean, at that point, you might as well, but Grady Sizemore taking over, I think, is the fun sort of story. Zach, your kind of collective reactions to this new sort of interlude before they find their new permanent kind of orchestrator.
I thought this was funny. I said in the last episode, I'm surprised he's still coaching. And then 3 days later, he's not coaching. So, I'm very okay with this move. It was time. And now they bring in somebody who is very new to coaching. Literally started coaching this year. This was his first year as a coach. He's been in the outfield. He's been an outfielder. He's an outfielder for many years.
Yep.
He's been with all the big teams. This will be an interesting thing to see if Sizemore can take that leap into coaching this fast, or if this is literally just being an interim stint and he's gone after this year. Like, we'll see. I'd be curious if he can actually do something.
I'm curious. I'm curious too. I've always Bleaved like for interims, like in any sport, basketball, baseball, or football, if you fire someone mid-season and you are still in a playoff spot, or at least like in playoff adjacent contention, to pick someone on the staff or bring someone new, and usually bring someone on from the staff that has more experience and is a little bit more seasoned, just to kind of, like steady the ship, if you will. But then at the same, on the other side of it, I Bleav that if you fire someone mid-season and it's just a total waste where there is just no rope to pull on, you give a shot to a younger, less experienced person to see what you have. And so, I'm glad that, if you're going to close this off with an understanding of how the rest of this is going to play out, you might as well just see what you have and see what Sizemore is capable of, instead of, giving this last kind of 40, 50 game stretch to someone who, is probably not good enough to compete for the permanent job next year anyway, and someone that you already have some context on. So, good on them for getting some new information.
Here's a funny story about Sizemore. I'm looking at his Wikipedia page right now. In 2023, Sizemore asked Josh Barfield, who was the director of player development for the Diamondbacks, to join the Diamondbacks last year. All positions were full, but Sizemore accepted a $15 an hour internship with the GM last year. With the GM last year, Mike Hazen. And then Barfield became the assistant GM for the White Sox this year and brought Sizemore with him to the coaching staff here at the White Sox. So that's how he got into coaching. A $15 an hour internship.
He got to skip teamworkonline.com entirely.
Exactly.
Shortcut. No, it'll be cool. It'll be a nice, refreshing face. Someone younger, someone that this is not a young roster in the way that we view, a team like the Nationals or the Pirates or the core of the Royals as young, but it is on the younger side. And I think that having someone like him, a nice, new, relatable face in the building. And I see you're still smiling. Did you find another nice little info nugget?
No, I found a funny tweet, and it said, "Dudes will read the name Grady Sizemore and simply say, hell yeah."
It does sound like a little bit of the show generated name.
Anyway, yeah, sorry, I just saw that.
That's great.
I'm trying to learn about this guy a little bit. We're
all gonna have to do a little bit of digging. Other quick note around the majors, and Zach and I have talked about this before off air, but Jackson Holliday, batting 400 essentially since being called back up, became the youngest player in the American League ever to have 3 consecutive home runs in a game.
Or 3 consecutive games with a homer.
3 consecutive games with a home run. There is, the take that I sort of had, I was a big Holiday guy. I think a lot of people were. I don't think there were really many anti-Jackson Holiday people before he got called up. The take that I always had and that I've shared with you before was that I thought that sending him down was a little strange because he didn't make the opening roster. And so clearly in the time that, since opening day when he wasn't on the roster to when he got called up a month into the season or whatever it was, they clearly saw things in AAA that were like, okay, he wasn't ready before, but he did these things and now he is ready. And so you send him back down, but that kind of makes it difficult because then you sort of make this weird path for him to make his way back. And it's like, okay, well, if you look at like the ingredients of what got him to the majors since the start of the season, by sending him back down, like, what are you like looking for in addition to it? So I thought it was strange. I thought that like the path that they were setting for his development, it was like, okay, well, if you're seeing these same struggles, it's like, well, he's already here, so you might as well just have him go through these nicks, up in the majors instead of sending him back down and having him kind of restart, even though he kind of made the transition already and like did what they asked. I thought it was strange, but he's I don't expect him to finish out the year batting 400, but he seems to has found his kind of offensive identity a little bit, even if the defense is still a little kind of in that C to C minus territory. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I personally I understood why he sent him down because he was terrible in his first stint. I mean, if you want to be frank with it, he was physically unplayable in his first stint in the majors. And so that's why you sent him down. You sent him down to figure out what just happened to everything that he had built in that first stint, and then you let him build that. And while you're doing that, you then lead the American League in record, and then build your AL East lead up whatever it was at most peak 9 games, I think it was, or whatever. It was like 6 games or whatever the peak was in terms of their lead over the Yankees. And then when a spot finally opens up, you bring him back. And they did that. And they brought him back, and he has been that guy that we all expected him to be in his first stint when he came up. It's no different than, I'm going to bring it back to the Twins because we're Twins. It's no different than the Twins sending down David Festa again. Sending down David Festa after 2 starts in the majors. David Festa was, to be frank, horrible in his first 2 starts in the majors. They were 2 of the worst starts you can ever have in the majors. And so we send him down. We say, figure out what in the world just happened, and when the spot opens back up for you, we call you back up. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, Chris Paddock goes down with another injury. He's back up, and he's taking the most of it. It's just that, right? You can have a top prospect, but if they are physically unplayable in the majors, yeah, there's nothing really you can do but send them down.
Well, that's a baseball optics question that I'll actually kind of throw to you because I'm curious on your answer. So, like, different ball clubs will give teams give prospects rather, especially number 1 overall prospects within their system, some benefit of the doubt when it comes to slumps. And, I know that some teams, I think, might have too, for lack of a better phrase, like too sensitive of triggers when it comes back to sending guys down. And, sometimes people complain that a lot of ball clubs don't have, and obviously everyone's in different situations when it comes to their goals for the year. And so you have to factor that in. But, in a vacuum, a lot of teams don't have the patience needed to develop guys in the majors with major league caliber coaching and development. Where do you stand? Because I
stand when you're a contending team and a team that is top of the majors. You have to put the best roster together that can help you win ball games. And when you have a player that was playing as bad as Jackson Holiday was, he is not going to be on your roster for very long because your team is so good and so deep. That prospect system, that farm system of the Orioles, is the number 1 ranked farm system in baseball. that you have other guys that you can call them to continue to build that roster. But if you're like with a team that doesn't have a ton of depth in their farm system or doesn't have really the necessary pieces to replace that number one prospect for, like, for example, David Festa was immediately replaced by Chris Paddock when Chris Paddock came off the IL.
Right.
Chris Paddock at that point was a huge upgrade to David Festa because Chris Paddock actually looked decent in some outings. So for me, it comes down to the fact that Jackson Holliday is in the best farm system in Major League Baseball, on one of the best teams in Major League Baseball, and he wasn't performing at a level that he should have. In which case, Baltimore has the ability to say, okay, we'll call up. It wasn't Heston Kierstad, but I forget who the other guy, who their other top prospect is.
Mayo.
Mayo. Mayo. Replace you. Like that, and they have that ability because they have the best farm system. It's the same thing as the Twins, the Twins sent down Eddie Julian early in the year because he was playing unfathomable baseball.
Right.
And they called him Brooks Lee.
Right.
Or
what we saw earlier in the year with Torkelson.
Yeah.
And I think you actually know.
Torkelson's had his chance. That's the difference. Is Torkelson's had his chance to be that guy.
Right.
Edward Julian was good for 1 year, and then halfway through this year, they were like, "Yeah, he doesn't have anything."
I think you were right. I think it was Kursak because that was earlier in the year. Mayo just got called up. If I could, I agree with what you're saying. If I could play devil advocacy, for in a case of the Twins as well, but especially for a team like the Orioles, isn't it also fair to say that if their whole entire infrastructure of the team is so good and is so far ahead and is in such a great spot in terms of where it can put itself in the postseason, that you can afford some wiggle room to allow a young prospect with so much potential like Holliday to go through a slump and still be on such a positive trajectory? Because if you're a fringe team that might be on the playoff, then you don't have as much room for error. The Orioles are so good that they do kind of have some room for error, I think.
But at that time they didn't. Remember, at that time the Yankees were the best team in baseball, and if they wanted to win the AL East, they had to be the best team in baseball.
Yeah.
So at that time they didn't.
That's fair. That's a good.
And then you send Holiday down, and you have to wait for a spot to open up for him.
Right.
And it didn't open up until a week and a half ago.
Right. No.
So that's where I stand.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And I think that they obviously made the right decision because it's working.
Right.
And he's come back and he's playing out of his mind.
No, these are good. It's a good problem to.
So that's where I'm at. Although I will say I'm low upset Jackson Holliday because I drafted him in fantasy. This year.
Yeah.
And then I held him on my team for so long before I finally was like, okay, I got to drop him. I need a spot on my team.
Right.
And then a week later, he gets called up and is now playing the best baseball of his career. And now I'm just sitting here like, great, I don't have him anymore. So
yeah,
Jackson Holliday is now my favorite players in baseball list right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it'll be very interesting to see. But let's get into the Twins. Let's talk about the Cubs series. There's kind of two main pitching points to discuss. Well, I think we'll start off. Do you want to start off with Ryan?
Yeah, let's just talk about Ryan.
Let's just talk about Ryan. So Joe Ryan suffered an injury. Reports came out today. It's not going to be super serious. The exact diagnosis, I Bleav, from the Star Tribune, it was coined as tricep tightness. That's the phrase that's been being used.
Yeah, that is.
But Zac made the point of, getting a starter was a priority for the Twins that was not addressed at the deadline. And not even 2 weeks later, we, arguably, one of the core pieces of this rotation.
I would say that Joe Ryan is probably a top 5 most important player on our team.
Right.
And yeah.
It's kind of poetically inconvenient timing to be going through something like this. As you mentioned before the episode, the entire AL Central has gone through sort of a collective slump, with the Guardians losing 6 in a row, and the Royals got swept by the Red Sox, but which on its face is good, but the problem is that means the Red Sox swept, and that is another team that is going to be fighting for an AL wildcard spot. So there's some good and bad there, but obviously with the Guardians now going on a 6-game skid, so there's a little bit of breathing room. If these guys were going on a tear and it became even more, or if the
Royals are
had
struggling
swept,
also,
then this becomes a little.
Yeah, this becomes a lot more concerning. But right now, I'm actually happy with where we're at. I think we're kind of got lucky that it's all happening at the same time, and it's kind of crazy to say, but I don't think we have the most momentum going into one of the most important series of the year somehow, despite losing 2 of 3. No, but Joe Ryan, listen, okay, so let's talk about Joe Ryan for a second.
Yeah.
Joe Ryan is extremely important to this team, right? Our team physically does not have the same ability that it has without Joe Ryan on the field, because you can live with like 3 really good pitchers and 2 maybe they'll be good guys. With 2 really good pitchers, you're really testing it. Mm-hmm. That would give you a wild card win, but luckily, I think from what I'm saying, I agree. From what I'm saying, it does not seem like the injury is too serious. So I assume he'll be on the IL. I'm basically gonna guarantee he'll probably go to the IL.
Yeah.
Which would put him out for 2 weeks. My guess is he'll be out for 3 weeks to a month. Is kind of my guess.
Mm-hmm.
Based on that. However, I do not know. Will not know until a while. That being said, Louis Varland. It is Louis Varland's time now to come up and make an impact. And he has not shown that he's been able to do that all year. So hopefully he can figure it out. But yeah, Louis Varland will be the 5th starter coming up. Joe Ryan, I wish him best of luck to his recovery. I'm a little scared I jinxed it by getting his jersey 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous. I jinxed it a little
bit. Don't buy any other jerseys for the rest of the season.
Yeah, don't buy any other jerseys for the rest of the season, I guess.
No, but, you and I talked about last episode, the side that I took, and I know we'll talk about David Festa in a second, but like I had kind of given some real praises to Woods Richardson, and Varland now comes up and you don't know really what you're going to get. So now, I kind of called for, okay, I want to see Woods Richardson really close off the year super strong. And that to me, when I said that, was kind of like, okay, some sprinkles on the cake, if you will, like a nice kind of finishing touch to the season in terms of the rotation. Now with Ryan, we don't know, it doesn't seem serious at the moment, but he probably will miss at least a little bit of time, would be my guess. We don't know what's going to happen with Varland. So now if Varland looks like the way he did at the start of the year, then you need Woods Richardson to take not that step up, but kind of step back to where he was to kind of even it out a little bit. And so it is a little bit of a kind of strange situation where you have to now invest, capital into someone who at the start of the year was not just flatly was not good. So that it is kind of, and with no trade acquisition,
It is a little scary as well. I will say it is a scary thing, but Varland has shown flashes. He has always shown flashes that he can do something. And so I am looking at it now like this has to be his chance. This is his moment to take a stand here. And I guess we'll see. And listen, Louis, if you ever listen to this, we're cheering for you, but we really need you to step it up this year.
Cheering for you.
You
gotta get
it. Absolutely, but no, but Joe Ryan's one pitching started here this weekend, but the other one, Anders. Is okay. Wait, my prediction for that game was 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. I was wrong, and I was very wrong, but I am very happy I was very wrong. If you would have told me that David Festa would have turned into 2023 Joe Ryan early in that game, I would have not believed you. But, I am very happy, Anders. Anders, I'll let you explain more of why I'm excited. Extremely happy.
So David Festa, Zach's, I think, twin of the month, basically. He came, showed up and really, after his first 2 starts were, as Zach mentioned earlier in the episode, not great. Really, took
not great, horrible. Not my exact word. I'd be really like to.
Thanks for strengthening the vocab there. Horrible. Pathetic, terrible, disgusting.
Yes, all of the above.
All of the above came in and took advantage of a really not, kind of up and down, spotty Cubs offense, and just totally took control. And was really, really solid. If to get the exact line here, Zach, as Zach said, he was wrong. To kind of put the exact line here. I don't know why this is not why on earth. I'm trying to get
I can tell you the exact line. Do you want to know the exact line? I can tell you.
Zach's memory.
I remember. It's like it was 5 innings pitched, 2 hits allowed, 9 strikeouts to 2 walks. In 5 innings. No earned runs, obviously.
Right.
One of the most dominant performances I've seen from a pitcher in a very long time that wasn't named Pablo Lopez or Bailey over. Like it was like or Joe Ryan. It was just those out of those 3. Besides those 3, it was one of the most dominant performances I've seen, especially from a rookie. It was just so good. He was generating a ton of swing and misses, which in his first 2 starts, the reason he was struggling was because he wasn't generating any swing and misses. I think he had like 3 strikeouts total in 2 games, in 2 outings early in the year, and now he had 9. So, but the worry for me there is the pitch count was high. I said he turned to 2023 Joe Ryan because he had 50 pitches through 3 innings, but had 6 strikeouts.
Right.
And that was a Joe Ryan stat line last year. That was a big time Joe Ryan stat line. So David Festa came up though, and he came up huge. I said the Twins would win that game because I felt like David Festa was gonna have a breakout game, and I was right. I'm happy I was right. I was wrong about what the record would be during the series. But then again, I also say this, which is I don't blink an eye when we lose a game where a starting pitcher gets hurt mid-game.
Right.
Because I just feel like that's already kind of an automatic loss, in my opinion, in my head. I don't know if you feel like that, Anders, but to me, when a starter gets hurt, especially early in a game gets hurt,
right,
I immediately look at that as like, you're going to immediately have bullpen guys throwing out of position and throwing when they weren't expecting to be throwing.
Right.
And so I kind of turned that into, I don't blink an eye when we lose a game where a starter gets hurt early. We had this last year too. Early in the season, I think it was Kenta Maeda. He got hurt mid-game against the Red Sox. We brought in Emilio Pagan. He gave up like 8 runs in like an inning.
Right.
And we lost bad.
No, sorry, you finish your thought. Sorry.
And so I was just saying, I personally I don't really blink an eye when we lose a game like that.
Right.
Anders.
I was at the beginning, last he kind of blew me away because I watched, I kind of last episode I had said for me with young pitchers it's for me it's just establishing identity with the fastball. With the four seamer and how he uses it and the kind of pressure that he puts on it and situationally how he operates with it. But the slider changeup combination that he has is really unique because I'd say the changeup breaks slightly earlier than his slider, but the movement looks essentially identical in terms of the 12-6 kind of motion there. Kind of not 12-6 exactly, but the up and down motion looks very almost like I actually say would is on screen looks identical. And it's exactly what you want in terms of how to generate misreads from batters. So that actually, the thing I was impressed the most with him was not the thing that I was looking for. And that, I think, to me, indicates a lot of success. If he can continue to use that as a 2-strike kind of pitch where, not where pitches don't know exactly. It's hey, is this going to break earlier? Do I stand off? Is it going to break late and, kind of get into a little bit of hanging? Can I take that whiff on it? Not going to know as much. And so I'm really curious situationally how he uses those 2 pitches as he develops more reps, especially against better lineups that are able to have more discipline. If he can establish some confusion there, I don't know what his next scheduled start is. I don't know if
I will leave his next scheduled start, if I'm not mistaken. Will be Sunday against the Guardians.
Sunday. Okay,
so he will be facing a better lineup.
Right, in a very disciplined lineup that has a lot of people that are very hard to strike out. So if he can I really, I like that. I'm going to be watching, the David Festa versus Stephen Kwan battle is going to be really, really entertaining and really interesting to watch, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree with that. And they have not announced who the start would be for the Guardians that day, so we don't know who he's pitching against.
Game 1 is Bailey Ober. That they haven't.
Yeah, game 1 is Bailey Ober. They haven't announced the Guardians yet. Game 2 is going to be Louis Varland. I'm pretty positive.
Mm-hmm.
Game 2 is going to be Louis Varland. Game 3 is SWR, and game 4 is going to be David Festa. So Pablo is the only pitcher that won't pitch in this series.
Okay.
So which is okay, honestly. I think Pablo needs a break first of all.
Yeah.
Pablo, as much as we talk about the good thing about our pitching and stuff, what Pablo has done recently is very disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously allowed the 3-run homer in the second game. He allowed another single in the third to score. He allowed 4 earned runs in the first 3 innings, and then he only had 2 strikeouts. That's not Pablo. Pablo is a 6-inning, 7-inning guy that's going to give you 9 strikeouts and probably allow 2 runs at most. That was Pablo Lopez. So what we're seeing now is not him, and I'm a little worried. I'm starting to get a little worried on Pablo.
Right.
But we'll see. But I kind of want to lead this in here, which is, we lost the Cubs series 2-1.
Yeah.
but we had breaking bright spots in Royce Lewis had another home run.
Yep.
David Festa looked amazing. I would very much like to, I think we move into what, in my opinion, is the most important series of the year.
Yep.
And I don't think there's a debate on that. I think this is kind of encircled by every single fan of both of these teams for the last 2 months that are like, this is our most important series of the year.
Right.
And Anders, let's talk about this. We're already starting, obviously. It's a 4-game series, a doubleheader on Friday. Game on Saturday, game on Sunday. Anders, what do the Twins need to do to finally get get the Guardians off their back? They've not been able to beat the Guardians. Right. They've not been successful versus the Guardians in a long time. It's been a while since I think we've won a series versus the Guardians. What do the Twins have to do to win that series?
The big kind of story. So I'm really glad that this series is at Target. So, so the big thing for the Twins this year, the big kind of surprising storyline is like, oh my God, like they're actually hitting home runs now. Like, I think going into the series against Baltimore that they had last week, they had hit as many home runs by the end of game 1 that they had hit all of last season in 2023. So they're hitting the ball harder and with more ferocity, and they're connecting more at the barrel. And that, to me, kind of makes it a harder sort of lineup to navigate because, last year was a little bit disappointing for them. At times, once you got past Ramirez, it was sort of easy to pitch to them because you knew that as long as you kept them, as you got your, you kept your defense together and you just held them to singles and kind of just crossed your fingers that they're very weak and disappointing, pretty benign bottom half of the lineup kind of just didn't produce, then you could beat them pretty easily. Now that they're hitting both for power and for average, obviously the emergence of David Fry has been a super big part of that. It is hard to navigate. So I think keeping these guys in the ballpark is the most sort of important thing there, because we know people know how to beat these guys when they don't hit home runs. So, and Target, as you know, is incredibly difficult to hit home runs in. And these, Progressive is not as home run friendly, but is in the middle collectively. Target's tough. That's really tough. And so I think as long as you can keep these guys in the ballpark, not have, you're going to let one up to Ramirez, you're going to get, there's a chance he always gets, his kind of weekly 470 shot that he always seems to have. But I think just making sure that, Kwan and Fry don't get, doubles that can get swung into RBIs. I think that's kind of the big thing. And, like Festa, right? Like those strikeouts are going to be really important. Like if you can have guys on first and second, but then get the swings and misses now that these guys are going for power more than last year, that I think leads the opportunity to get some guys stranded pretty consistently. And so I like Ober, Festa, especially, like I want to see those guys can contribute. And then for Varland, because you had mentioned for him, his walking, he does not really walk people, Varland. I do, especially last year, he didn't walk people really at all. I think that if he can just not, don't have like the goal for him, because I know that the bar is not super high for him given how he started the year. The goal for him, I think, is just do not have like a blow up third inning where you allow like 4 runs. As long as he can do that and just get through it, give 4 and a third solid innings, and then let the bullpen take care of the rest. I think it'll be fine. I really don't think and it's kind of looking up when talking about it because they do lead the division, but I don't think that if you can keep these guys in the ballpark, they're not that hard to beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
no.
Is everything I'm saying kind of
no, absolutely. I mean, I think that is really true, but also the thing is last year they beat us a lot too when they weren't hitting home runs, simply because they were getting lucky, like a lot of lucky hits,
right.
where they get like bloop singles or bloop shots. That's how they played against us, and they succeed at it. And then they hit a walk off versus like Yohan Duran somehow, and we never understand how in the world they got a home run off Yohan Duran with that team last year. But it's just, the Whites, they're really annoying because they really are. They're a good team. They're a great team. Don't get me wrong. But it's just, man, they have our number. So I'm hoping we fix that this year.
Yep.
And I could really use, I could really use a win this series. This would be a really big win this series. And yeah, we'll see.
No, the division is not a runaway anymore. This 6-game skid has really made things actually interesting. It's funny, I don't root for the Guardians when they play. I do root for them on the ESPN news desk though, because they have had multiple stretches of having like consistently long stretches of having the best record in baseball. They don't get talked about at all. And it's always funny, right? Like whenever they're on Fox or, the Apple TV Plus game on Friday, or like the showcase games or whatever it is, or ESPN. I don't actually know how many ESPN Sunday games they've had. But it's always it's kind of this weird thing with them. And I'm not apologizing for the Guardians at all. I hope we beat them by 10 runs every single time. But it's this weird thing. I wish they were talked about more, because it's like this weird thing where every time they go on national television, it's always, oh, no one talks about this team. They need to be discussed more. And like all those platforms always say, the sentence that's always gets said is, these guys should be talked about more with how much they're winning. And they'll say that every time. They would rather talk about how little the Guardians are talked about than actually talk about the Guardians. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
It's a little, and I'm not rooting for the Guardians, but that part of it is a little strange and frustrating to me.
Absolutely. I agree. So yeah, just announced 30 minutes ago. Louis Varland is preparing to start the second game tomorrow versus the Guardians. Since June 29th, Varland is second in the International League, which is a AAA league, with a 1.48 ERA, and is tied for fourth in strikeouts with 35. So he's been raking in AAA, basically, recently. So hopefully that stays, but Louis Varland will be starting the second game for us tomorrow. And with that, man, I just hope we win, man. As a Twins fan, we need this.
Really important.
And it's not even like I don't think we can split. I think splitting the series does not help us at all.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see momentum. I think we have to win 3 or 4.
Right.
To really, because if we win 3 or 4, we're 1.5 games back. Think about that for a second. If we win 3 or 4, we are 1.5 games back in the division. If we win 2 of 4, and we're still what? Would actually we would just split, right? We'd be just
if we split, it goes to the same.
Oh wait, now if we win 3, well, we gain 2 games on them, right? We gain 2 games on them, right? Yeah. And if we don't, if we tie them, we'd win. If we win 2 of 2, we'd just stay at 3.5.
Right. No, it's really. This is really essential because if they keep a skid, excuse me, this skid will go on hopefully after the Twin Series.
Yeah.
But this is really important too, in the sense of like tiebreakers. If that's what this does come down to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is huge.
But multiple, a really important series with 2 really key starts in terms of David Festa looking to continue those high K numbers and Varland hopefully kind of regaining some of those sparks that you had mentioned.
I also say it's a big start for someone who was Richardson on Saturday as well, because you need him to bounce back and show he can be that pitcher.
Right.
And then Bailey Ober, 9 straight quality games would be awesome. But also, we know what Bailey Ober can do at this point. So, I don't know. I'd be like I said, 3 of 4, I think, is actually a reasonable assumption.
Yeah.
I doubt we sweep just because we're the Guardians and we don't beat the Guardians that often. Yeah. So, I'm going to say 3 of 4. My prediction, though, we need to win 3 of 4. My prediction, though, is we split.
Okay. I'm going to... No, I'm going to guess 3 or 4. That's good.
I love it.
I'm going to...
Yes, Anders. Thank you for being the optimist. I am not.
I'm going to be a little more optimistic. I'm gonna say for Festa, since you gave a prediction last episode, I'm going to go... Let's call it... Let's call it... Well, you know what? He's going to get to 6 innings.
Okay.
No, he's going to go 5 2/3.
Okay.
And I don't think he's going to have 2 hits. Let's call it 4 hits. Let's call it 4 hits.
Okay.
5 2/3, 4 hits.
1 run, 2 runs.
1 less. We'll go 8 strikeouts.
What about runs?
Runs? I'll go 2.
Okay.
2.
Okay.
I'll write that down. I'll write that down and we can compare.
Okay, I'm down. I like it. I like the thought process. I would agree with you on the thought that I think that when we get to that 6th inning, he'll be sent out and maybe he allows a couple of hits that allows a run.
Yeah.
In the 6th, and then he gets kind of taken out of the game there.
Right.
Midway through the 6th. I think it's I could see that happening. But for now, I like it. And that is our prediction. I'm going to say I think we go 2-2. I think we win the Ober game. I think we win the opener. I think we lose the Varland game, although I think Varland pitches well, but I think we lose it because it's a doubleheader. And I think we split the doubleheader.
Yep.
I think we win the Festa game, and I think we lose the SWR game. Okay. That's my prediction. So I think Festa and Oberge wins. I think Varland and Woods Richardson get. Actually, I'm gonna say I don't think SWR will get an L. I think he will get a no decision.
Yeah. No,
but we will lose that game. That SWR pitches.
So I think the Ober and the Festa games we will win. I do agree that even if Varland does show the sparks, just kind of, I think maybe he'll show some sparks that don't show up in the stat line. But I do think that even if he does show those sparks, we will lose that game. The Woods Richardson ones, I like the idea of a no contest. In terms of winning or actually losing the game, I don't feel super comfortable making a prediction just yet. So
But
that
you said 3 or 4, so that has to be a win. So you'd have to basically say that it is a win.
I guess that would have to be a win. But I do like the no contest thing. That's my take on it.
I just think our bullpen always blows one game to the Guardians. We always do. It is absolutely always just happens. Is our bullpen just always blows one. And so I think that game with Simmons Woods Richardson is the game we blow. I think Woods Richardson pitches okay enough and that we get a lead, but then our bullpen blows it at some point. And I think the only way I think we win 3 or 4 is if Woods Richardson pitches well and we win that game, or Varland pitches well also and we blow that one. So I think I could see us blowing. I could see our bullpen blowing the second game of the doubleheader also. But anyway, that's it.
There you go. Really important series. Most important series of the season. Guys, what a great episode. Hopefully when we see you guys on Monday, the US will have snagged gold. And which
it'd be really funny if they didn't.
Be really funny if they didn't. Either way, we'll have a nice opening for the show.
Yes.
There, hopefully, maybe not. Maybe who knows? Maybe Grady Sizemore will be undefeated as a manager by the time we see you guys next. But this has been episode 3 of the Bleav in Twins podcast on the Bleav Network. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your media, or you can watch us here on YouTube. And thank you for making the Bleav Network a part of your sports media consumption week. I've been Anders Pryor along with Zac Tipton. Go Twins. We'll see you guys Monday. Zac?
After the most important series of the season.
After most important series of the season. Lots to talk about. We'll see you guys soon.
Talk to you guys later.
Talk to you later.